Welcome to day 6, everybody. Saturday evening for many of us. And yeah, I'm excited to be here with you again. And my co-host Patty, tonight we are going to be talking all about challenges and obstacles that we're running into. I know that I can tell you just by keeping track of what I'm doing, I have the same challenge that I have had, and that's getting my my vegetables in. I have no problem getting the protein in. It's just getting the vegetables in, which we all know that we need those vegetables. They're kind of like the spark plugs that make everything else work. So and Patty has a special guest with her this evening. Can't hear you currently.
Okay, can you hear us now?
We can hear you now.
Okay,
Yep.
hello everybody. I'd like to introduce you to my niece's daughter, Evie. And she's joined me. It was a late babysitting date, which actually, interestingly enough, my niece is getting her master's in nutrition and doing a presentation. She also is a single mom. My nephew passed away a few years ago, so we all help with her 3 little ones. And this is Evie, her youngest. So she'll be with us, and she just had some wonderful whole yogurt. If anyone's seen this brand, it's fantastic. Nancy's, right? And blueberries. And should we show one more thing? And before we go on, a meat stick. And I think they're from Vermont, Megan. So there you go. I'm going to mute until I talk.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you want to get started with the slides, I can probably start the beginning couple here. So let me just get back to Zoom and share my screen. Hopefully we can avoid any difficulties this evening, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to keep it in the thumbnail view just because that seemed to work yesterday when we're trying to overcome the challenges. So we've got a little picture of a little snail there, you know, coming out of its shell on a leaf. And next up here, we've got, yeah, I love that too. I love that too.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. She's like, yes, we can do this. Everything is either an obstacle to growth or an obstacle to keep you from growing. The good thing is you get to choose. And that's from James Altucher. I think maybe messing up his name. So moving right into it, common obstacles. The starving brain is probably the biggest obstacle that we have because it can make you feel like you're in one of these mazes that you can't escape from. You're like going every direction, trying to figure out what to do next, and you're doing nothing. So some of the common obstacles to trying to get in enough protein and vegetables that we hear from people all the time. I don't have enough time. It's too expensive. I don't have enough money. The family dynamic, picky eaters, food pushers. I don't like to cook. I don't know how to cook. I don't like to shop. I hate shopping. I don't know how to shop effectively. I don't really like eating. I never think to eat. I love eating. You live to eat instead of eating to live, and you're eating everything. That was me for a long time. Food offered by others that doesn't support your brain and your recovery. Social events, you know, cookouts, barbecues, happy hours, networking events, all of those things. And then just plain old eating out. These are some of the things that we run into when we're trying to, you know, fit this into our lives, where we're trying to eat the protein, 20 grams of protein, approximately for me, every 4 hours.
Yeah.
So
I want to just make a little note here, Amy,
yes.
Especially about people offering you things. Just this morning, my daughter moved in I'm almost, I won't say embarrassed, but my daughter had little bags of like Cheetos and stuff. And I'm like, all right. So my son, in front of a whole bunch of their friends who were all moving them, offered me a Cheeto bag, right? But I brought my cookies, my gluten-free walnut pumpkin cookies. And the Cheetos looked actually disgusting. I used to love those. But you know, people are going to offer you things. And this is something I think I talked about the other night, right? We had our beautiful neighbor downstairs bring us some food and we accepted it. I didn't know what was made in it. And I was up all night because there was definitely some MSG in it, which I'm highly sensitive to. So this is something we get to, because it's a tricky one. I know we all know that, especially with Thanksgiving coming up and people offering food. And, you know, this is where you get to make food and make that contribution as well too, and then eat that. But, you know, it's okay. We can do it, especially because it really makes you feel better, and we can help share the message with people as well too.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Yeah. I'll just say that having a community of like-minded people makes me think twice when I'm tempted with the Cheetos, because I know, and I used to love those too. I even used to like how it made my fingers all like that neon orange color. You could almost glow in the dark with it. Which now it just makes me crazy when I think about that. But just knowing like that you're in a community of like-minded people, and you might have to say, hey guys, you know, I have the orange neon fingers this morning. It just makes me think twice about, you know, do I really want to do that, or is it really worth it? So, and just some tips here for overcoming obstacles. You know, we've got the person on top of the world here. One of the biggest things that we can do, like for managing time, is committing to learning time-saving strategies, because I always used to be one myself, I'll admit it, say, I don't have time to eat healthy. I'm just going to get takeout again tonight. But then, you know, again, using that liminal thinking approach that I talk about, was that really true for me? Did I not really have time to eat healthfully? And when I examined it for myself, you know, I'm great at making excuses, I learned, but in reality, there is plenty of time. We just need to commit to learning it and commit to doing it. And once we do that, and once we get in the practice of doing it, it becomes second nature. And then those days that you don't do it, or the weeks that you don't do it, you really miss it. And you say, wow, you know, I've really gotten myself into a good groove. So, you know, one of the things that you can do is be purposeful with what you're cooking. So if Friday is roast chicken with vegetables, that might become, you know, use that for to start a chicken soup that you can parse out and put in the freezer when it's cool. Or it can be chicken stir fry on Sunday. You know, the whole idea is to cook once and eat 2 to 3 times. I know for myself, when I do chicken, I always make chicken salad with it. And I usually have enough left over for chicken soup or chicken fajitas or anything really. Another one for a time saver is the pre-chopped or frozen veggies. I had to rely on my frozen veggies earlier this week when my arugula was no good anymore. So just being able to go to the freezer and have some just, you know, the plain old without sauce and additives in the bag, you know, the frozen veggies can really come in handy. Freeze some homemade meatballs, make some salmon cakes. I think I'll share my recipe for salmon cakes, because today I had some salmon that I was going to top my salad with, and I looked at the amount that my husband brought home and I said, that's just going to be too much, but I have the ingredients in the house that I can make salmon cakes with, and package those individually and just pop them in the freezer. And those are fantastic as a lunch snack on top of a salad. They're fantastic with a poached egg in the morning. There's like so purposeful. I love them.
Yeah,
And
they're
then
delicious.
yeah, I was just going to say one pot pan cooking, you know, if part of the time saving techniques is not having to do a bunch of dishes, right? Nobody wants to clean 3 or 4 different pans in the process. So we can get used to roasting, making casseroles, and again, soups are fantastic. Patty, did you have something to?
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Amy. Well, you know, depending on your roasting pans, but if you have a roasting pan, that's also could be a soup pot. You can just start the soup right after, you know, just fill it up with water and then start adding the vegetables in. The bones will be in there. I mean, generally we cook the bones and make bone broth from any of our, you know, whole chickens or turkey, or if you're doing beef, a beef bone.
Yeah.
So don't forget about that, because that's, you know, those are our ancestor recipes from long ago, bone broth and the chicken broths. So
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah, so good. And you just reminded me with the bones, and I don't know if this is proper edit. Sorry, there's something flying around here. But whenever we have lamb, usually,
Mhm.
you know, if we cook it, I'll save the bones and
Yeah.
I'll let them cool and then I'll freeze them. And then I add those to my soups or my stews, and it just gives it a great flavor.
And a lot of minerals and a lot of amino acids.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love, now that I mentioned lamb, I haven't had it for a couple of weeks, so I think I'm gonna have to go see if I can find it. And I will buy the cheaper cut of lamb because it tastes just as good to me. I don't have to
Mm.
have the little lamb lollipop that they serve in the fancy restaurants. I can have the other cuts that taste just as good. So
Mhm.
speaking of obstacles with money, right? You can, what do you
I
have
wanted
here?
to show you something. Can I just interject for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
second?
go ahead.
So Amy was talking about lamb. And Amy's an AB blood type, and we just talked a little bit about this, and I do a lot of this in my personalized health coaching and nutrition coaching. But look at your blood type, because as she's talking about lamb, I can't eat lamb. In fact, I'll tell you a story about a bone broth in just a second here before Amy continues. But I was looking it up because I was curious, and I said, I bet lamb is on one of her lists, and sure enough, it is. As an AB, turkey, lamb, a few other ones are on your list. So it's just interesting about the blood type and what you're actually attracted to as well, too, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
I'll tell you the lamb bone broth later if we have time.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing. So tips on money, and we will share this with you in the one pager, but we have a fabulous Vimeo. I think it's about 40 minutes or so, where Amira Rajput, she's associated with the Academy, she does a great a talk on all about money saving tips and how to shop on a budget. But one of the recommendations is to buy in bulk whenever possible, your quinoa, your beans, etc. But I would recommend only doing that for items that you actually eat. Like, I wouldn't necessarily go out. I don't eat a ton of beans. I like them, but they don't, they're probably not good for my blood type now that I'm thinking of it, because I'm not really attracted to them. But I would never
What beans are
buy,
they? Did you say beans?
yeah, beans. Yeah, I was just saying, trying to explain that don't buy things in bulk that you're not necessarily going to eat. Only buy the things in bulk that you really actually are going to eat. Otherwise, it's just a waste of money.
No question. And on the bean note, that's also part of the blood type stuff. So there's beans. If I have kidney beans, I'm type A. It's a nightmare. I don't eat kidney beans. I do Aduki beans and black beans. And so they're, it's all part of the lectin theory. And I'm sure many of you have heard about that. Dr. Gundry's everywhere on Facebook, if you've heard about his stuff, right? That's about the lectins, which create inflammation. So that's a helpful way to look at, okay, what beans work for me? You can actually get the app and look it up, and your body will do much better with beans that you can actually digest and turn into protein. So
yeah, and tolerate. No, thanks for that. Buying veggies, buy your veggies when they're in season. And you can freeze the veggies, put the veggies up if you grow veggies. Sprouts are another one. It's ridiculously cheap to sprout your own sprouts. Consider going to farmers markets just before closing time, because oftentimes they don't want to lug the remnants back that they're not going to sell, and oftentimes they'll just want to pitch them. You can get them. My husband has had bags and bags given to him because the farmers don't want to take it back and load it. So and they may have nicks and bruises. They're the ones that are more picked over, but those are like great for soups and stir fries and things, because you could just cut those parts out. And then consider buying meat in bulk for freezing, or go in with a neighbor. I actually have somebody that I work with who he calls processes. He actually has livestock, and he and his wife will have them processed, and then they'll distribute them amongst neighbors and things. And that's just a great way, because it's a lot, right? And you're not necessarily, I mean, unless you have a big family, going to eat a half of a cow, but that's just one thing. Compare your grocers. Go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, I mean, I want to interject a little bit here because a lot of this stuff is really important. And I know we're talking about money on a budget and coming back to our gal that has the Vimeo video. The link is at the bottom when we finish. She's also going to be speaking next week for the Alliance. So please join the Alliance for Addiction Solutions. It's a nonprofit organization that we're connected with as well, the Academy and Eating Protein Saves Lives. But like Amy said, you know, farmers will break things up for people, and you can go, if you can go directly to the farmer, they're like going direct to the consumer now instead of having to like take it to a shop. So check that out. I might have my son doing that here in Utah, and he's got a freezer. I mean, you do need to probably get an extra freezer, and then splitting it up with people or co-oping with people for saving money as well too. The other thing I wanted to mention about money saving, that a lot of the grocery stores will actually get rid of their, you know, their produce that's kind of going. It's not quite gone, but it's toward that way. And they donate it to food banks and things like that. So for folks that are really on a budget and want to get some of that organic produce, you can actually go to some of your local stores and say, you know, hey, can we grab a few of those, and then, you know, create a group to do that with, because they throw away so much food, guys, you know. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah, really good points. And speaking of grocers, compare grocers and stock up during sales. I know, you know, back when up north where there's so many different grocers that I was used to, one grocer in particular, not that we eat a ton of canned goods, but they were the grocer to go to for canned goods. It was just one of those things where we wouldn't buy those things at any other grocer just because of the price. And then check out electronic coupons and sales. I mean, there's the old-fashioned newspapers, and there are also plenty of electronic coupon sites. And Amira actually talks about combining this. So if you can find a sale item or a 2-for-1 item and also use a coupon associated with it, like for things like butter that are just like through the roof these days, and we go through a lot of butter, but if you can find a coupon and get a sale item at the same time, you can just stick that stuff in your freezer. And that's a fantastic way to overcome kind of the priciness of certain things.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to cover all of the obstacles that I pointed out on the first page there, but there's a few, like cooking and shopping are obstacles for some people, and people get scared of cooking if they've never done it before. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You can ask for help. You can learn from a friend or from a neighbor. You can help a friend or a neighbor. You can experiment with trying to cook and see what's working out for you. There's folks like Patty, Chef Patty, learn from her. Yeah, so experiment with it and try not to be afraid of it. You can start small. With your shopping, make yourself a list and stick to it. That is one of the biggest things that I can recommend. It's not easy to do, but once you train yourself, you can do it. And remember, folks, this is a journey. It's not a destination. So just be kind to yourself as you transition into a lifestyle that maybe you haven't necessarily been adopting to date, but it's something that you can transition to, even if you start small. Like if you're a person that is eating out 5, 6, 7 times a week, and I went through a period of my life where that was me for a while. Just cooking 2 to 3 meals a week is a good target.
Absolutely.
If you're going, because again, remember that, like, cook it once and eat it 2 or 3 times, even if you cooked twice, and that you can make that last. And then, as Patty was describing, being offered food from others and, at social events, and everybody knows a food pusher. I'm sure Thanksgiving here in the US, you just have to have some of Aunt Susie's famous casserole. It looks great, smells great. You have no idea what's in it. But, for reasons like Patty explained, you don't necessarily want to go there. So what do you do? it's helpful to visualize that scenario in advance and have
Mm.
2 or 3 things that you can say. You can say, oh, you know, I'm on medication, or whatever you can, if it's true for you, you can say that, you know, I've learned that, you know, when I eat certain foods, they don't necessarily agree with me, they interrupt my sleep, whatever. Have something that's true for you that you can say to these people that are like pushing the things on you, and just stick to your guns, because you know, people will not say, oh, gee, I really want you to stay up all night and have a headache. You know, they'll generally be respectful of that.
That's wonderful, Amy. And I would also just say, and you can really just say, no, thank you.
That's a full
Sometimes we can,
sentence.
it's a full sentence, no, thank you. And then just shift the the focus, instead of going, well, I'm on this, I'm doing this food plan. And you can, if that feels good to you. But I think, I mean, I'm practicing it too, right? You know, I could have said no, thank you to my neighbor, because I was like, you know, but it was really nice to have someone cook for us, because we cook all the time, you know. So I was like, oh, it's so fun. And then I was like, all night, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
so now I
Yeah.
get to say no thank you to her. And I think I shared with you all, we're inviting her for dinner. She lives in our downstairs apartment, so I can then talk to her more about our food and this, you know. I'm a health coach, I'm wellness chef, you know. We certain foods I cannot really have anymore, you know, for my own health. And maybe she'll be interested, and maybe not. But she'll get to eat our food, and then you know, she probably won't offer us food anymore. I don't know. But
or you know, or she might be anxious to offer you food, because she might say, I tried this healthful new recipe and I'd love for you to share
exactly.
some.
And
Yeah.
there's the seed planting, right? So
Yeah.
this is when we get to plant seeds, because people like, really, and she's a lovely, beautiful woman. She's obese, and she's a nurse, and I must imagine that's hard, right? You know, and we, you know, so and I don't know anything else about her health. All I know is what I see, and obesity is a hard one, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
folks, even nurses, guys, don't know that the foods they're ingesting are loading their fat cells, loading them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the seed planted, and that's what we get to do.
I like that. Yep, a lot of seed. I've planted a lot of seeds and had a lot of discussions with people, so it's fun. I love to talk about food. You know, I could talk about food all day long. Another tip, just if it's not obvious, check out the menu in advance. A lot of, you know, if you know you're going out with friends and they've recommended a restaurant, a lot of times menus will be online. These days, you can always look at the menu and decide what you're going to have in advance. And if you're not seeing anything that you might like to order off the menu, or there's limited options, you can always, like, you know, preload is what I call it. You can have a couple of hard-boiled eggs before you get there, so you're not ravenous and you're not feeling deprived. Like, you still feel like you're, you know, you're getting and you're participating. So there's just a few of the tips there for overcoming obstacles. And you really just you know, be mindful and question everything, and ask yourself, you know, what you need in the moment, and be true to you, is what I'll say about that.
Fantastic. And I'll second that, because I think one of the things is speaking our voice about what our needs are, right? And you know, there's so much energy around food. I mean, I've been working as a health coach for so many years, and it's a touchy subject for a lot of folks, right? Especially if you've had any issues with food, and or don't have a relationship with food. But we also get to speak up and say, you know what, no, thank you. You know. So I encourage you to speak up for your needs with your food. And restaurants, you got to watch their oils, man. I remember this is a little something I did a couple of years ago. I was working with this organization here in Utah called Utah Eats. And I pretended I was a food writer. I was in the restaurant because I wanted to find out what oils they were using, and they would not tell me.
Ooh.
it was really interesting. It was a new restaurant. And I was just like, well, I'm a food writer. And that's probably why they didn't tell me. I should have just asked them without thinking they were going to write, that I was going to write about it. I usually don't do that, but I was really trying to get the oils. They would not tell me. So the oils, and many of us know that. And I know that working in the restaurant field and in catering for a while, oils are expensive, right? And that's where they cut corners. And they're using, really trans fats, most of them. So that's where you really have to ask, and if it's organic, but there are some good restaurants out there, and we should be able to go out to eat. So just like Amy said too, check in advance for their menus and ask questions, hey,
Ask questions.
what's in that casserole you got on the menu?
And don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed, because it's your body, it's your mind, it's your brain, as your choice, really.
Mhm.
So,
And nutrition is starting to move up the scale, folks. I mean, it's up at these medical schools now, which is really cool, up at the University of Utah. My niece is getting her master's in nutrition, and she said it's taking center stage. Why do you think that is? Because our healthcare has been going downhill for so long. Why haven't they been talking about it? So we know, those of us in the field are like, the missing leg, right?
yeah,
This is the missing link, nutrition. So it's starting to come up, and this is a good thing. So we're happy about that. It's taken a long time, but we're getting, we're getting there, and our healthcare and our mental health will all improve.
Yep. And we're all part of it. We're all part of it,
Part of
it's
the
almost
movement.
like it's almost like our moral, I don't know, necessarily a moral obligation, but social responsibility to
Absolutely.
question these things. So Patty, I think the next slide is yours, and we're going to transition over here into the recovery tools.
Okay. So, I mean, some of this was already mentioned as we talked about obstacles, but, as we come up with obstacles, looking at some of the tools that will help even avoid some of the obstacles, and creating a daily self-care ritual is kind of one of the baselines here. What does that look like for you? And of course, that's something, again, is us first. And I talk about that a lot in my coaching and with my students. It's like, okay, we need to feed us, and care for us, and then we can care for others. And especially if you're a mother, or, you've had a history of the caretaker or codependence, we take care of everybody else. And then, whoa, I haven't eaten all day. Right. So this isn't a judgment at all. This is coming back to a gentle, loving place in your heart to go, I matter. I've got to feed myself first. So creating whatever that self-care ritual looks like for you. And I do a lot of that in my coaching and classes. Creating a daily gratitude, meditation, or spiritual practice. I mean, that's part of my daily self-care ritual, as much as eating. And I do it in the morning. That's usually what works for me. I've been working with a gratitude journal now for a couple of weeks, because I had some obstacles coming up in my life. And I'm like, you know what? Gratitude journaling, visualizing what I want to see shifting, and things have shifted. And meditation, and that could be, that could be a walk for you, but it also could be just sitting silent and feeling your breath. And that's just part of tuning out so that we can slow down. And as we add a little bits of that throughout our day, and I call them just like resets, daily resets, throughout the day. Like today, Amy was talking about planning. My daughter moved this morning. I ended up having to babysit here for a little bit. But I scheduled in a nap because I was up really early, and I was like, okay. And I laid down for like an hour, and maybe you don't get to do that, but that was in my plan. So this is part of our self-care. It's like, okay, I'm going to lay down, and even if it's for 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be very long. Plan meals and snacks. Again, we talked about that earlier, but this is a tool if we can help remember, okay, and it might be day to day. And it can be easily day to day if you have stuff in your fridge, right? So whatever your shop day is, again, do 2 or 3 proteins, make sure you've got some veggies, things that you can then grab and make your food with. Time to sit and eat slow and not stress. This is a big one, mindful eating. You know, when we're eating in a stressed state, that switch, we talked about the switch, well, your digestion switch goes off because you're not really digesting. If you're in the, if you are in the sympathetic nervous system, you're not digesting. And generally you don't want to eat when you're in that stress state, but some of us do anyway, right? So take that time, even if you have a break, you don't have much of a lunch break, sit just for a couple minutes and breathe. Take a few breaths, let your digestion get going, and then eat. Connect in with the sacred practice of it.
Yeah, I just want to interject here one thing that is so important when you're taking the time to sit and eat slowly is chew your food. That is so important because digestion, you know, it really starts before it even goes down into your stomach. And our stomachs don't have teeth, right? It's super important to get all of that saliva and those enzymes going so that we can kind of, you know, pre-digest almost before it gets to the stomach.
The enzymes are in the saliva. You know, that brings me to a experience I had when I was in school at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and we were in experiential school, and we were all given a half, maybe it was about a half a cup of rice, and we had to eat it and chew it like 100 times each bite, and we had to let it last for like 20 minutes. And I was like, this, you know, of course, back then I didn't know what I know now, but I was like, this is ridiculous, right? But that's what we were looking at, like digesting food and also being able to spread that out, and also understanding sometimes that's all people get. Which, you know, you don't want to go into guilt about people starving, right? but having an awareness and a sacredness about, okay, this is my food, this is sacred, thank you for healing. And our bodies listen to everything. These are sacred vessels. And as we eat and take care of them and talk to them, the cells listen to what we're saying. Thank you, cells. You know, thank you for healing if you're having something going on with your stomach. Thank you, stomach cells. I love you so much. You know, these are other things we can start doing to help our bodies, because it's our energy body. It's very, very powerful. Right. Christina said the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, which is crucial to digest protein. Thank you for that. Right. So chewing. Yeah, chew. It's harder for us faster eaters. So I've had to work on that myself. I also want to just mention while I'm thinking about this, if it's just you eating, that's wonderful. You know, I had a client once and she's like, well, I like to cook, but for everybody else, I don't cook when I'm alone. And I'm like, okay. So we need to think about that too. If we don't have a husband, we don't have a family we're cooking for, we deserve to create that sacred meal for our sacred bodies and sit down and have that connection. Because again, our bodies are listening. And so sit down and eat slow, supplementing and amino acid therapy. We're not going to get into that too much, but that can also be a recovery tool, you know, and some of us do supplementing, getting in those bio cofactors, and amino acid therapy is also really powerful. Hydrating, drink water in between meals. Try not to drink during your meal very much, but, you know, in between meals, load up. Eat clean, stay clean. We already talked about that. You know, the more we can choose organic foods. And what I would say about that too, for those, especially on a budget, is that, you know, you can bless your food. And I remember learning this from an energy class I took back in New York many years ago. And she was talking about you can bless toxins out of your food. And I was like, and I'm into this whole environmental organic movement. I'm like, so I had a hard time with it at first, but we can work with the energy with our food. What we cannot do is put calcium in the food. We cannot put zinc in the food, which we don't get generally very much of in non-organic food, non-organic vegetables. But we can energetically bless our food and ask that all the toxins be removed and that it's digestible and really good for our bodies. And sometimes we just have to do that. If you're at a restaurant and you don't know, take the time. And every time I do that, I don't have a reaction, but I forget to do it. Right? You're talking, you know, and you can do it silently. You don't have to go into a whole mantra about it while you're sitting there. You can just connect in with the food and bless your food before you eat it. Move, exercise, and we talked about what works for you. And for me, what I wanted to share about this is we can also have personalized exercise, right? So for someone, maybe swimming is their thing that works for them, right? Walking, but really listen to your body. And if exercise is creating, and in Ayurveda, they talk about this a lot. If you're pushing your body beyond what it needs to be, I mean, unless you're training for, you know, a race or something and you're an athlete, that might be a little different. But most of us are not. And over exercise stresses the body, right? Too much. So people think, well, I'm just working out. And I know a lot of you've seen it. You see people working out and that's their fitness, right? But which is good. We want to work out, but what works for you? Maybe a 10-minute walk is what you need, right? If you've been studying a lot or moving a lot, even in your job, you may not need to go do a half an hour run after that, you know? So please listen into your body and go, what do I need? Maybe just a 10-minute walk, maybe some yoga, you know, maybe some gentle Qigong. There's so much great Qigong now that you can get on the internet. And I've been practicing Qigong for a long time. It's a very gentle energy movement that's very, very helpful. So figure out what works for you. Nature and grounding. This is very profound. And I know it's getting cold now in some of the colder states here, so you can't go out without your shoes on, but you can go and connect in with a tree. And the more we can actually ground, our electromagnetic energy shifts. That's why we feel better when we're on the beach or when we, you know, sitting on a rock. It's real stuff. There's a book called Earthing that talks all about the science of the electromagnetic field and why it's so important for us to ground back, especially with all the internet stuff and the Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi is really throwing off our electromagnetic energies. So the more we can go and ground, the better we'll feel with that too. Clearing your emotional body. There's, you know, therapy, traditional therapy, trauma work, emotional freedom technique. There's so many tools for that. And it is really vital that we do that as well too. And as we talked about before, as we feed our brain, we're able to go in and do some of that recovery trauma work that could be just really overwhelming to even think about. I wasn't able to go into my trauma work around my father, who passed away when I was 10. It was a really horrific accident that I witnessed till I was 50. Right? But it is what it is. I finally did it, but I realized how important that is. And we all know that, especially if you're therapists and working in that field. So please get the therapy that you need and work through some of those pieces in your life that might be holding you back. So sleep. Oh, so sleep is so critical. Find that nighttime ritual, turn off the Wi-Fi. And I mean, this isn't just turning it on airplane mode, it's turning it off. Like powering it off. And if you have Wi-Fi in your room, TVs, all that stuff needs to be powered off. You don't have to, but it's affecting your energy body and it's affecting your nervous system. And there's plenty of research on that out there. Now that particularly with the 5G and some of the stuff, a lot of us were trying to not have happen, but it happened. So it's here. So now we have to deal with the after effects. So please shut everything down. There are also, for those that are more sensitive to the Wi-Fi and the electromagnetic fields, you can actually get things for your house to divert some of that energy coming in. Okay, emergency food kit, turn off the Wi-Fi. And we'll go through some of these. And please keep putting stuff in the chat. We'll talk about it after. I'm trying to move through this, but we're gonna go through the chat. This is our emergency food kit, and I don't think we have much. Yeah, we're almost done here, and then we're going to go through some of these questions that, especially that Christine is bringing up. So, emergency food kit, plan ahead. Provide yourself with resources so that you don't have an energy crash or a relapse. This is what we're talking about with the obstacles. So, yes, your kitchen, but you need to have a kit with you too, especially if you're going to work, and the kit could be in your kitchen, right? You need to eat, again, protein every 4 hours. It must be with you to access it, right? So if you're crashing and you don't have anything around, like these turkey sticks, right? You know, or a hard boiled egg, or walnuts and pumpkin seeds, you know, something that's with you. Like in a small cooler, keep it in the car, take it to the office, on the road, and restock, sometimes restock daily.
Yeah.
So here's some of the ideas, and you'll get this in a handout. Meat sticks, of course, we talked about canned mackerel, sardines, tuna, sliced turkey. And that might not seem like it's a quick snack, but it actually is. If you can go get some, and when you're going to the deli, make sure you're getting the whole turkey, not with any additives added to it or sugar on it. You can get the whole, and if you can't afford the organic, you know, just make sure they're not adding sugar to the outside of it, because that's what they put all these things on the outside of some, when they roast these meats, you know. So just ask questions, and then get yourself a half a pound or a pound, you know. And if you have a little cooler with you, you can just bring it with you, and some microgreens. You can roll that so quickly, and it's so satisfying. Nuts and seeds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, almonds, pecans, dried fruit, crackers with nuts and butter, protein powder in a shaker. So, you know, you can actually put it in your shaker, and then all you need to do is add water. I did not get to food before the class, and I took my protein powder and I just drank a protein shake. It was quite good, just with water. That's it. It was so simple. So it can be that simple. Protein bars, at least 20 grams of protein, low in sugar. Look at the labels and see what's in it.
Yeah.
Brain balls, energy balls, pre-made or bought. I know there's some out there. Ask what's in them. If you're going to buy them out there, there's a lot of like coffee shops and cool places that have like these little energy brain ball things. Just find out what's in them. As well. Leftover proteins from dinner, put it in the cooler. Hummus with veggie sticks and crackers. And I also, into my hummus, I add hemp seeds for a little extra boost. Cheese sticks, whole milk yogurt, which again, you can add hemp seeds to. So then you're getting the omega-3 and some of that other fat as well too. Healthy protein fat cookies made with monk fruit. I'm a monk fruit pusher. Whole milk yogurt. Oh, I guess we have that in there twice. Tempeh sticks with marinara salsa, or some kind of a sauce that you want to make. Tempeh is really easy. It's actually pre-cooked, so you can just slice it up. You can also bake it, and put any kind of spices on it. It is a vegetarian protein. You can cut it up so they actually look like little fish sticks. So that's another idea. And then, yeah.
We're ready to go to the next one.
I think so. And I think that's our last slide, and we can talked, oh, well, maybe there is one more.
Yep.
Okay, buying food on a budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you had already talked about Amira. She is one of the graduates from the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition, and she put together this film on buying protein on a budget. So it's really helpful. That is the link there. I think it can be in the chat. I don't know how to put it in the chat.
Yeah, you'll also get the link as part of the one pager. I can probably pop the link in the chat after we
We've also put that on the one pager as a video. You can just literally press and play
okay, great.
as well. So it's in there as well.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Highly
Mark.
recommend that. I listened to it earlier today and I knew many of the things, but
Yeah.
just hearing them again just really knocked it home for me. So it is, you know, a wealth of knowledge. So I
It
would say
is.
just definitely you can, you know, click on the link and take it for your walk with you. It's not something that you have to write down a lot of things to remember.
Mhm. And it's really, her recovery story is really remarkable as well, too, as many of ours are. Mute that person. Yeah. All right. And then the last slide here is, oh, yeah, this is about our last day tomorrow. Oh, I'm more sad already. This has actually been so fun to do.
It has been. It has been.
It's been so fun. So tomorrow is our last day. We're not going to have a slide presentation like this. But we are going to tie it all together. It's going to be a community discussion about what has helped you, what you need support with. We're going to have 2 guest speakers, Chef Alex, and then of course, Christina Veselak. And then we're going to continue our connection with weekly Feeding Recovery Zoom meetings and networking. And so we'll get you all the info for that. I think Mark has probably already dialed that in, but the timing will be every Monday night for now from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And the meeting room opens at 4:50. So folks can come on early to say hi and connect. We really want this to be a continued and expanded opportunity for people all over to get this message, folks, because it is what is saving lives. It's what saved my life. And I'm going to continue to talk about it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Like I said, that was like all those times that I tried and tried and tried. I just wanted to drink like a normal person, right? Wondering why it never worked. And then, you know, once I got the physiological aspect down, you know, and together with the mental work at that time, you know, I was receptive to it. And then, you know, I lost the desire.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? Like, why do I want to drink like a normal person when I don't need to drink at all? But it wasn't until I got the, you know, eating right and giving my body the nourishment that it needed to do that. So like, I want to shout it from the rooftops because, you know, so many people in my family struggled for so long. And it's like, oh, darn, if we had only just known, like, it was this simple. I mean, I'm not saying it's simple, but it's, there are aspects of it that are obvious that we just didn't know about. Yeah. So invite all your friends to the meetings. I think the community aspect of this is so important. You know, as many community connections as you need to make, whatever, you know, whether that's AA or other groups, you know, just add this one to the rotation. Yeah. So let's see, do we want to, I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll flip over
can we,
to the
let's
chat.
flip it open and then we can chat for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some comments in the chat.
I just did another reminder that this is about, as Christina said, addressing all 3 legs of the recovery stool, right? The biopsychosocial, social, the spiritual, and the brain, right? So those, the biosocial cycle and the spiritual, it's all about living in balance. So we need all 3 to be working in balance, you know, and so that's what this is all about. Even though we're focusing on the bio part, the spiritual, as we just talked about a little bit before, is really critical too, and making sure you get therapy and things that you need for all the other things.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
think Christina's asked, could everybody please post here what your best emergency food is? We want to hear from all of you. Yeah. Patagonia white anchovies. Oh, I've never heard of them. Similar to sardines, not pizza anchovies. I love
Really?
the ones with lemon
Patagonia
and olives.
anchovies.
I'm gonna
Oh.
have to check those out. I love all things fish. So
Mhm.
yeah, protein
then-
bars. Go ahead.
Mhm. No, I was just gonna mention, Elena, so protein bars and protein drinks, so just put in what they are, because there's so many varieties out there, so if you have a really good one, just put it in the chat so people can pick that up.
Yeah, I am extremely fussy, so.
Well, good, no, we'd like to, that's, because there's so many protein bars, I mean, you go into
Yeah,
the health food
yeah.
store now too, and it's, or the regular store, and the whole wall is filled with them. So if you have a really good, clean one that you like, that works great, we'd love to have that in the chat. So
Yeah.
thanks, Elena.
Yeah.
And then another coach is also hoping to start a feeding recovery meeting on Tuesdays.
Hey.
Woohoo! Keep
Yeah.
us posted. We're excited about that.
The
Yeah,
more the merrier.
thanks, Haley. Smoothie with frozen avocado chunks instead of banana. Right on. I keep forgetting to do that. Megan, thanks. With
I love
protein,
the avocado
and
in the
coconut milk.
smoothies. Yeah,
So did you guys see this recipe?
yeah.
That's all in one. That's the whole
Protein
deal.
powder, greens, and coconut milk. I find when I add avocado, it took me a while to figure this out, but it was the avocado. The drink comes out, I have one of those bullet mixers, and the drink
yeah.
just slides out of it. It doesn't leave any residue on the side of the jar when I add avocado. So it's always like a motivator because it's easier to clean.
Mhm. Garden of Life. Oh, I like those. I did too.
They
Okay.
have a specific one. In
Well-
fact, I showed Christina when we got to hang out last week at that
Okay.
conference, the sport one it's in
Mm.
particular. Some of the bars, the other brand that are okay for me, because I have like teeth issues. The goddamn bars are harder than my teeth. I'm like,
Oh,
I can't eat this.
yeah, right on.
Like this, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, those I find
Great.
doable. And
Thank
they're
you
not
so
always
much.
that easy to find on
All
the
right.
ground. Like a lot of stores don't have those particular ones, but maybe
okay.
online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And so we hear from, wait a minute, I want to go back up to this one here from Haley. Spinach, almond milk, 2 bananas, cacao powder, vanilla extract, smoothie, 1 serving of protein smoothie boost. I don't know what that is, but we'd like to know that. Cool. Nice. Just again, remember when you're on with your almond milks, check to see what's in them. There's some really good clean ones out there now, and there's a lot of junk ones that have a lot of different stuff in them, especially if you're having digestive issues. So just be aware of that. I think I mentioned
And
malt.
I'll just interject there too. In Amira's video, she demonstrates really quickly how to make your own almond milk. It's
Yes.
just, yeah, it's amazing.
It's yep. I'm just
I
gonna
always laugh when people say things like that. Like I remember once someone at the store where I used to work, a customer said somebody was buying, the already made the vinegar with the all the groovy stuff in it, and like make your own. And it's like, okay, like here's what I have time to do: shower. Like there's certain things. It's like, yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen. But
right. Mhm. All right. Thanks, Helena.
also, just real quick, if we could go back to the digestion, because it's so key, and what Christina was saying about the HCl. I mean, the number of people they have on those, what the heck are they? The proton pump inhibitors, the reflux thing. The reflux thing is they have everybody on them, and like a lot of, they never think to look for the HCl being too low, and the symptoms are the same.
Yeah.
They're the same essentially from being too high as to being too low. And a really huge one I find, like I'm not a world traveler or anything, so I'll just have to go by Americans. In fact, a very close friend of mine, like of many years, is one of them. I mean, they literally, not only do they barely chew their food, they literally wash it down with a cold liquid. Like I'm talking three or four chews, wash, literally washing that food down. And this guy has had major reflux for years, years and years. And
Okay.
I try to explain it, and he's like this. Blah, 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 blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah,
There you get
blah.
to let go then, Elena, because not
know it,
everybody's going to
I
hear
know
it.
it.
But thank you for that share.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Anyone else wants to share a little bit before we finish up here tonight? We just have a couple minutes.
Let's see what else is in the chat here. I think that's about it. Intrigued to make almond milk. Great tips.
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh,
Actually, we made walnut milk for a little while too. It was all right. It wasn't so great.
It's so big. Has anybody made oat milk? I haven't yet.
We've made
either.
oat milk as well too. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's okay. I mean, it's definitely, all of those are doable, especially if you're on a budget. For sure. It just takes time. So that's where, and if you have time, then that works for you, you just have to figure out, part of the reason we were making it was because we couldn't find a clean one, but there are actually some good brands. This one is one of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this is basically water, organic oats, organic sunflower oil. So there is sunflower oil and sea salt. That's it. So if you look at some of the others, they've got the carrageenan in it, and they've got gargum and and those are all not helpful. They're creamy. They make things creamy. So keep reading your labels, friends. Read your labels.
They're scary, some of them.
It's scary. Yeah.
Especially if you've been consuming something for a long time, you say, I thought that was healthy.
Yeah.
Then you learn, but that's okay. Onwards and upwards, right? We don't have
That's
to be
it.
perfect. It's just progress, not perfection.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to thank you all again for joining us. This has been a gift for us to offer you, and a gift for us as well to see people excited and stepping in. And please join us tomorrow. We really want to know about how you're doing, on how some of these tips and challenge things during this last week have been for you. So please come. It's going to be a community share as well. That's really what we're looking forward to talking about tomorrow night for our last connection with you all, tying it all together.
Bring it all together. And I'm excited to hear what Christina and Chef Alex have to share with us. So that'll be, it's always, I've heard Christina talk several times, but I don't know Chef Alex. And like I said, I love to eat. I love food. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Beautiful.
So,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you
Blessings
tomorrow.
to you
Bye-bye.
all. Much love.